Hi, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Stacey.
And this is the BodySmartPodcast.
And today we are talking all things metabolism. In fact, we got some BS to be cutting today.
We have. Metabolism is like the buzzword.
Yeah, it's everywhere at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's been everywhere for a while, isn't it? Because it's like, my metabolism is broken. They've got a fast metabolism. They can eat what they want. I've got a slow metabolism.
Yeah.
So,
and it sounds kind of sciencey and like
yeah.
mystical.
Like, yeah, we don't understand it fully. Like, mine's slow, theirs is fast. That's why I'm overweight. That's why they're thin. Or you can eat what they want.
But that is what we're here for.
Exactly.
It's not mystical. We're going to break it down.
Yes.
So I guess the first thing is, let's talk through some of the words, phrases, problems that you hear banded around.
With metabolism?
Yeah. Like, what do you hear?
A lot of people just say, like, I have a slow metabolism or I have hypothyroidism, which, again, can slow your metabolism down, but if medicated properly, very little in some cases. Polycystic ovaries, again, can slow down your metabolism. Varies from case by case and can make things more, significantly harder. But a lot of people will just say, I've got a slow metabolism, even though they might be like 100 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight. And actually, you've got a faster metabolism than someone who's 50 pounds, 100 pounds lighter than you.
Okay, so this is the first cut in the BS. Do you want to explain why that's the case?
Yeah, so heavier people...
Hang on, wait, let's go back one. What even is a metabolism?
Okay, your metabolism is it's going to come down to how many calories you burn. We've touched on this on other episodes. So it's your total daily energy expenditure, which is broken down into your basal metabolic rate, your non-exercise activity. So your basal metabolic rate is how many calories you basically burn off doing nothing. We've called them your coma calories before. If you were in a coma all day, you lay down in bed all day, you still need a certain amount of calories just to keep your heart pumping, breathing, keep you warm, keep you alive. The other sort of 30 to 40% of calories are spent from expenditure from you doing stuff, whether that's eating food and digesting food, whether that's moving, walking, fidgeting, blinking. It all requires energy and exercising. So that's something you've got a lot more control over when it comes to your metabolism.
I think when we've got these kind of articles or people online talking about metabolism, they're really talking about that baseline BMR, aren't they?
Yes.
That's what they're referring to. And I think it's often ignored that there's this huge chunk that is not mystical.
Yeah.
It's like very easy to manipulate yourself.
Yeah, which is all those other parts. So, like little things you can do, you can either start exercising if you're not. If you are exercising, you can increase the duration, frequency, and intensity of your workouts and burn more calories in your workouts. That's one part. Exercise doesn't burn as many calories as people think, unless maybe you're exercising every day and doing lots of exercise for a long time. Not to dissuade anyone from exercise, big component of it, we'll keep saying that. Your non-exercise activity, this could just be moving more, having a higher step goal. And that's one of the easiest ways to get your non-exercise activity up is to try and set a step goal. Somewhere between, I think, like 7 and 10K is a good range to aim for. Obviously, if you're at 2, going from 2 to 4 is a great place to start because it's just doing more. But 7 to 10K is a pretty good number. And I know some people who have dogs or walk a lot, like I do, 15K a day. It's great. There's not really an issue with doing more. And then the other one is picking smarter food choices can quite literally speed up your metabolism. So getting adequate protein in your diet, we recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of lean body mass. If anyone is unsure what that means or how much you should get, we have our calorie calculator that you can go over on our website and you can take a small quiz and figure this out. It'll work it out for you. So get enough protein in your diet and then making sure that you're eating minimally processed foods or no processed foods at all. And your body just has to spend more energy on digesting those foods.
Yeah, because if you think about processed food, the clue is in the title. They've already been processed to some degree.
Yeah.
So there's less work for your body to do when it comes to getting the goodness or the energy out of them.
Yeah.
So obviously the less processed food, you have to work harder to get that out.
So to summarize that, it's exercise, get more steps in or set a step goal, and eat more protein and minimally processed foods. They're like some of the big rocks you can do to speed up your metabolism.
Which is a massive win. But when it comes to the other part, there is definitely a lived experience of I'm doing all those things, but I'm just not seeing results anymore. Like I was seeing results and then I lost some weight and now I'm stuck and I'm still doing the same number of steps, and I'm still doing my workouts, and I'm still eating high protein, but nothing's happening.
It's got to be starvation mode. It's just kicked in and it's kicking you. And that's it. Like, that is a very typical sort of thing that people will say is like, oh, starvation mode's kicked in. I'm not eating enough calories to lose weight. I'm not eating enough food. That's what people have told me. That's what the internet has told me, which just isn't the case. We've spoken about this so many times that you have to eat fewer calories a day than your body burns in order to lose weight. That is how that works. We've spoken about that's, there's people starving all around the world. There's people who are anorexic. There's plenty of studies that back up and have been shown time and time again, if you eat fewer calories a day than your body burns, you will lose weight.
Yeah. But that's not what is like talked about online, is it? There's this idea of starvation mode, and that you need to like reboot your metabolism or confuse your metabolism back into action. So where does that come from?
So that just comes from that, like, people have hit a plateau and they're at a weight loss plateau and they're wondering, I'm trying all the things I used to do worked and now they've stopped, and why has that happened? And there's something called adaptive thermogenesis or metabolic adaptation, which they both basically mean the same thing.
And this is a legit thing.
This is a legit thing. This is your like body's built-in survival mechanism. So it's basically, if you are, let's just do easy numbers. Let's say you're seeing results at 2,000 calories, and you're eating 2,000 calories a day, and you're seeing results. But that's a deficit for you. Say typically you're on 2,500. What eventually happens is your body metabolically adapts to the lower calorie number. So your body slows down. So when you eat fewer calories, you burn fewer calories from the digestive process. So straight away, it might not seem like much, but it can, on 500 calories, that's 50 calories less that you're burning on digestion now. Then things can slow down considerably, like your non-exercise activity. So people can go from doing 10, 12K steps a day to like 6.
If you're not measuring it.
If you're not measuring
aiming
it.
for a goal.
Yeah. And even if you are measuring it, it's being, and you see this always, like, bodybuilding is always a great little way of looking at like what the extremes are, because that's what it is. It's extremes. I've seen bodybuilders get interviewed when they get to like the peak of them coming down to a show, and they're like, I talk more slowly. Like, they literally talk slower. They blink less. They blink more slowly. They don't move like nowhere near as much. And this doesn't seem like it's that much, but this is all your body's built-in way of trying to get your body to slow down, to preserve energy, basically to stop you dying.
Because our bodies are amazing. They're super smart.
It's only the past. I mean, Si can maybe get me the exact number, but like, how long have we been in like abundance of food? In terms
like
of
maybe 100 years.
Yeah. So,
not even
from an evolution standpoint, the whole part around this is often being like feast and famine. So, our bodies have been built to be really good at storing fat and holding on to fat. And every time we maybe go through this feast and famine, if we can actually get a few more fat cells, become better at holding on to fat, we were going to win the evolution game of we'll survive longer. So it's only now in the past 100 years where, a lot of these inbuilt systems that we've got are no longer serving us because food is in abundance. And I think we have just now tipped over where there's more people dying in the world from eating too much than not eating enough, which has just showed how much that's changed. And that's only very recently happened. So yeah, we're still battling with a lot of these internal systems like adaptive thermogenesis or metabolic adaptation. That's there for a reason. It's trying to stop you from, being in a deficit for too long and basically getting to a point where you starve and die.
Mm-hmm. And that's where this whole concept of starvation mode or set point or like my metabolism's now broken comes from, because there is a physiological change.
There is.
And your body is trying to prevent you from losing weight to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Even to the point like your hunger hormones change, your cravings will change, your desire to move and fidget and like just be generally a bit more lively will change. And countless fad diets or like calorie restriction are a prime environment to create that in your body, right?
Yeah, because they're often extremely restrictive. There's often shakes involved, and just like even just how satiated you feel in general, just as a battle of wills, in a lot of ways. So yeah, it really doesn't set you up for even short-term success to hit the initial outcome that you're looking, but definitely not for long-term success. But with metabolic adaptation, I'm sure people are thinking like, well, what can I do and when does this happen? there's no real like data to show or studies to show. It can be personal and it can be subjective to an extent.
Yeah, so it's not like after 2 weeks then your body starts to adapt, or after 6 months, there's no set point.
Yeah, and so it can vary from person to person. And I think this is, back to that quote, what gets measured gets managed. Like if you are tracking your steps and you see that they decrease, you can consciously try and do more than that to stop that happening. If you are tracking your calories and you feel like your appetite's going up and you're being honest about tracking your food, you can be like, oh crap, I'm hungry, I'm eating more all the time. So, stuff like this can happen. And for some people, this can, metabolic adaptation or adaptive thermogenesis can kick in after a couple of weeks. For some people, it can be 6 months. So there's no, like I said, it's like you said, even, it's not like 2 weeks this will happen and then this amount of time this will happen. But, you're eating fewer calories. And then so you're like, there's already a slowing down in metabolism. And then it's like you move a little bit less. Your exercise sessions, you're not training as hard or for as long, or you skip the odd session because you're really tired. And it's all of a sudden like that gap of what was working for you just starts to close and close and close and close and close. And then you hit a plateau. And when you go, oh, I'm doing all the same things, I'm eating the same amount of calories, why aren't I losing any more weight? This worked for me to lose the first 20 pounds, the first 50 pounds, and then just stopped.
Yeah, and that can feel so infuriating. And also, it does start to question the process a bit. If you're in that position, I can totally get why you'd be like, there must be something wrong with me because I'm doing all the right things. I haven't changed the things that have been proven to work, so I must have a problem.
Yep.
But I think the key takeaway I want anyone to take from this episode is you haven't got a problem at all. You've got a metabolism that's working exactly as it's designed to work.
Exactly.
And we understand how to manipulate it in both directions.
Yeah.
So if it's doing that, we know how to boost it back up, which we're going to come on to later. But I wanted to cut some more BS because you're on a roll today. The next thing that people often say is, should I eat more then? Because you've just said, if I'm eating less, it's the calorie deficit, blah, blah, blah. So is that the answer to this?
So sometimes taking a diet break can actually be something that's really successful for people. And this is always where I'm like approach with caution, and I do say that. So a diet break would be where you actually bring your calories up to like what a new maintenance would be. And a lot of people are concerned about doing this. I've just lost 50 pounds or 30 pounds and you're telling me to eat more food and I'm not done yet. And it's like, you get that, but this might actually be something that's really good for your energy levels, your sleep, your performance, your thyroid.
Mindset.
Your mindset, yeah. But what this needs not to be is a ticket to just eat whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
And that's often sometimes what it turns into, like, oh, I'm taking a quote unquote diet break. I will just eat what I want.
So I actually hate that term. I never call it that with clients. I call it a maintenance week or a maintenance period.
Ignore me, guys.
Well, because diet break has those connotations, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, what do we call a break? Oh, I'm going on a break. Like, I'm going on holiday. Woo! That's not what we want. We want to like refuel, get back to maintaining your body at a level that it feels well energized.
Yeah.
And then we can go and hit hard again.
Yeah. And it's like it's zooming out to be like, it feels like one step backwards to take 10 steps forwards. And that's what you've got to kind of look at sometimes, because people are like, oh, I've been losing weight every week and now you've hit a plateau. And it's like eating more feels like, oh, I'm going to plateau more, or might even gain a little bit, and that's fine. But, typically taking a diet break could mean going up to maintenance. So that could be anywhere for most people between 250 and 1,000 calories a day more than they're used to having, which feels like a little bit foreign depending on what your deficit's being. But, you do that for some people, they do it for a week and they're good to go again, depending on how long they've been in a weight loss phase. For some people, it's 2 weeks or a month. And you will typically find in that time, your workout sessions feel better, you're sleeping better, you've got more energy, you're hitting PBs, and, you feel in a great place. You feel satiated, you feel full, you feel energized. I've seen some people go into a maintenance phase, maintenance phase, and actually like be eating more calories and then lose weight. And it's like all that's happened is like their output's gone up.
Yeah.
If you were to, so you like, someone go, oh, but I started eating 500 calories more a day and I'm losing weight. Like, how's that happens? And it's like, okay, well, if we just look at this more analytically, you started doing 5,000 steps a day more, you're fidgeting more, you're hitting PBs, you're spending longer in the gym.
Your workouts.
Yeah, there's just, so all of these other variables come in and that's putting you in a deficit. And I think that's sometimes where people go back and forth, about less is more and more is less and how that sort of plays out. But it does just come down to those dials a little bit. And again, it can be different for different people for lots of different reasons.
Super different.
Yeah.
I think something that's really important to keep in mind if you're listening to this thinking, this sounds great, like eat some more and I'll still lose weight, is still keeping track of all your inputs and outputs, because you need to know as you fiddle with those dials, like which things are working and what's the output of these changes. So when we say a maintenance phase, like we are still going to track your food. We are still going to aim for 80-20 balance. We are still going to do the same workouts. And it's then able to discern like what actually is making the difference here.
Yeah. And then it's like, so you do this maintenance phase for a couple of weeks, even a month, but then you feel ready to go back in. And what you'll typically find is you'll go back into that same deficit, or maybe you need to go on a slightly more aggressive deficit than that, but the needle starts moving again, you start losing weight on a continual basis. And sometimes people, if they've got a long weight loss journey to go, may need to do that a couple of times throughout that weight loss journey, and that's fine. Like, you've still got to just zoom out and go. And I think a lot of people forget this. If a weight loss journey takes you a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, it is still a season of your life. It is not forever. In most cases, it's not going to take that long unless you're, morbidly obese. Even still, though, I've seen people in 2 years radically transform where they look in terms of...
I think that's the difference of taking the strategic approach, because if you get to a plateau and you haven't got someone potentially suggesting something like this, you can plateau and still feel like you're doing all the work and then get really demotivated, fall off track.
Yeah.
And then that's another 3 months lost. Then you start again and it repeats.
Yeah, I mean, I would really... And this is why I said, like, I approach with caution with the maintenance sort of phase. If you can have a coach and have someone guide you through this process, like, I would advise that a lot, because you've just been in a deficit for a long period of time. Appetite's probably a little bit all over the place. Hormones maybe a little bit all over the place. This is like a green card to eat more food, even in a measured way. It still can get out of hand fast. So if you can hire a coach through this process, highly advised, or even have one before to guide you through it, or have some means of putting some level of accountability in place. Like, give somebody like a very clear blueprint of what you're doing and why, and just say, can they check in with you every couple of days, just to make sure that you haven't gone too far one way, because that's the last thing that anyone who's at this stage wants to do is, I've lost 50 pounds, I'm going on a diet, maintenance phase, and then the weight comes, you start gaining loads of weight back and you start freaking out.
Yeah, I think I know you're laughing at me, but changing that terminology does play into it.
It does.
Because if you say to yourself, I'm on a diet break, it's all those times in the past where you've been like, I'll just start again on Monday. It's that same kind of connotation. Whereas when it's a intentional, strategic phase of the journey, it's a very different outset. Yeah,
and you can... And the thing is, like, if your body's metabolically adapted to be on lower calories, so let's say your maintenance was 2,000, your deficit was 1,500, you've stopped losing weight at 1,500, that's actually become like a new set point for you at that point. So if you just go crazy now in terms of calories, you can gain weight very, very fast, because your set point is a lot lower than what it was. And that is sometimes, I mean, you've seen bodybuilders, and again, the extreme, gain 30 pounds in a week. 30 pounds.
So part of that as well, though, is because they've not got much glycogen stores.
There's definitely that, of course.
Yeah.
But they do also see like a rapid increase in body weight and body fat, and even to the point where they might gain new fat cells because they're gaining weight so fast.
And part of that we probably should explain is because your BMR, that like big part of the metabolism we talked about, it does reduce when you lose weight. So when you look at it on paper, it's not actually that much. It's like 0.02 grams per 1% of body weight lost. So when you look at it, you think, that can't be that much. But if you're a 200-pound woman and you lose 50 pounds, say, that is actually around 700 calories. That is no small amount.
No.
So if you go from your 1,500 calories to just going back to maintenance or on a diet break, but actually your BMR's reduced significantly, then you've got this double whammy.
Yeah, and these are just things to be mindful of, and that's one of the things. If you lose 100 pounds, on paper, your metabolism burns fewer calories. I was going to say slows down, but that isn't technically right. It burns fewer calories than it did when you were 100 pounds heavier, because it required more energy to move a heavier body. That's just how it comes down. But this is why when we have clients lose weight, we want to instill healthy habits that allow you to just constantly burn more calories, getting more steps in, doing resistance training, exercise on a regular basis, eating more protein, eating fewer processed foods. We have all our clients do this. So these are healthy actions and habits that get them to burn more calories throughout the journey. And then when they get to this point where they've actually hit their weight loss goal, we go through a reverse and find out what that new set point is for them in terms of calories.
I think it's super important that you just said that, because if you were that 200-pound lady, you lost 50 pounds and you didn't change anything in your lifestyle, there is a very big chance that you would regain that weight very easily because your BMR has reduced, but you've not gained any muscle. You've not changed whether you eat processed or unprocessed foods. You don't prioritize protein in your diet probably. So there are all these factors working against you. So it's why fad diets do get this bad rep of ruining your metabolism and why it's so easy to regain it.
Sorry to interrupt, just a quick ask. If you are enjoying this podcast, we do ask if you would go and hit that subscribe button, because our goal is to be able to help all of you guys become body smart. And the way we can do that is by getting better guests on, more experts. And the bigger this podcast gets, the more guests we can get on here. I know we've got this for another episode as well, but this is obviously something that I'm concerned about, which because it's become such a hot topic, which is like weight loss medications, because they can also do exactly that. They can suppress your appetite massively and allow you to lose weight without doing any of the healthy things that we've just done. So it makes you reliant on the medication, because when you come off, like you've not learned anything. So the weight will just come back on because your appetite will come back to normal. Your BMR will be less. So the same calories will make you gain more weight.
However, I have got some good news.
Okay.
So there is a study actually that was done in Norway by the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, and they did look at like, what's the deal with this BMR adaptation? Like, how long does it hang around for? What's the impact on weight regain? And they got women who were overweight to lose enough weight to be into a healthy BMI, and they averagely lost 26 pounds in 5 months. So it's not a small amount.
Yeah.
And they measured their body composition and their metabolic rate before they lost weight, 4 weeks after, during the maintenance phase, 1 year after, and 2 years after.
Okay.
So they looked like long term at whether they managed to keep it off and what their BMRs were. And actually, they were exactly what they should be based on just any normal person that had always been that weight versus someone who'd lost weight to get to that point.
Yeah.
So their metabolic rate wasn't damaged by being on a diet.
By losing weight.
Yeah. It had settled, and the biggest variance, let me just check my notes. It was like the variance on average was about 50 calories a day.
Yeah.
So those big numbers quickly become irrelevant once you like settle into your lifestyle.
Yeah. Which is why we harp on about this so much, that the most important phase is that last phase of learning to sustain and maintain. And that's not what predominantly the weight loss industry focuses on. It's just losing the weight. But it's actually just really learning how to sustain and maintain the weight that you've lost. That's the
because otherwise they really ditch you at like that really vital
pivotal point. But then it makes sense from a marketing and a business standpoint. Hey, like get them to lose loads of weight, feel really good about the process. And then it's just like, okay, you're done, bye. And when it just like comes back on, it's like, oh, you gained it all back, sorry. Come on, come do our thing again. And it's just like, and you just that's the trap. Like that is the trap.
I think we could all recognise that cycle as well.
Yeah.
For sure. And what about somebody who maybe hasn't even tried to lose weight and like gained and lost, but just feels like everything they've tried, it just doesn't work. They maybe have concerns about their thyroid or something, but they haven't been to the doctors yet. They're just like, there must be something wrong with my metabolism. I know we've got an example of a lady called Debbie.
Debbie on the BBC.
Yeah.
I mean, Debbie was I don't know, even Sai might be able to pull up the clip a little bit, but basically, in short, she was someone who thought she had a broken metabolism, thought it must be in that. That's being, and I'm not trying to say this about anyone who's got PCOS, because I just always never want to come across like I'm being a dick, because I fucking get it, you know what I mean? Like, we've worked with so many of these women who have got polycystic ovaries and got thyroid issues and genuinely got medical conditions, and I do get that, but more often than not, that is a crutch that is holding you back from seeing the results that you want. So like this lady, Debbie, is like, oh, I thought I had a slow metabolism. And they go and test her each day, and they give her this like water where she drinks it. It can track exactly how many calories that she's ate. And she tracks that she's eaten 15 or 1,800 calories, and she actually consumed 3,500.
Yeah.
It's like 2,000 more than she said. And she'd done all different types of measurements, and they measured her metabolism and said there's nothing wrong with your metabolism. So she's like, oh, so I think that's an excuse me and maybe many other larger people carry around, is that we have a slow metabolism. And you're like, actually, your metabolism's completely fine. And you actually burn a lot of calories because of your size.
Yeah.
But again, and everyone's looking for that, and I get it, as a way to protect themselves. Like, oh, I can't lose weight because of X. I can't lose weight because of this. And it's a little bit empowering, isn't it? Like, oh, that's like that's why. It's
also a bit of self-preservation of like, well, there's no point me trying because it's a waste of my efforts because of this reason. So you don't want to waste your energy or like put yourself up for hurt or disappointment when it won't work anyway because of this reason.
Yeah.
So I do get that as well. But the thing that I find really interesting with this example is they got her to record her food and it was underreporting. And I know when people were listening just now and you said she was underreporting by what, like 1,500
it's like
calories?
2,000 calories. It was all.
They were like, yeah, well, that's obviously just crazy example. Like no one's going to do that. But it is so common. It's like the norm is that people underreport. Not the norm is that people are accurate.
I mean, me and you have coached hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, probably even thousands of women. And I was yet to have a client who tracked perfectly from the get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
just didn't happen.
And actually, even in studies, they bank on the fact that people are going to underreport by 20 to 70%.
Which is insane. Like,
so that's like the standard in a nutritional study to expect.
Yeah, so, if you think you're eating 1,500 calories, it can be more like 2,250.
Yeah.
And it's like, so often that's it. And
I think it's really important that people know that that's normal.
That is normal.
Because if you feel like, well, no, obviously I'm doing it right, then again, it feels easier to go down this path of, well, it can't be my tracking, it must be something else. Whereas if do you know what is super normal to not be that great at tracking until you learn how to do it properly. And that's actually probably an easier place to look at fixing a problem than like trying to fix some mythical.
Oh, and that's the problem. Then you'll go on TikTok and then you'll go on social media, and the next minute someone will say it's your cortisol levels and it's this and it's that, and it's like, before you know it, now you've got, well, it's my thyroid, my metabolism, my cortisol levels are high, and that's why I can't lose weight. And it's just all these things are doing is just like boxing you in and giving you a framework to say, I can't lose weight because. And
it's super disempowering because you can't actually really change those things. But you can change how you track.
Yeah, you can. and often, we'll typically see you like, and you can see it on our reviews all the time. Our clients will say, hey, like, I got my blood work done before and after. All my hormones are in a healthier place after just doing a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this podcast. Cortisol levels in a healthier place. Just everything in a healthier place. Why? Because you've got your sleep habits in a better place. You've got your nutrition habits in a better place. You've got your movement habits in a better place. You've got your stress management tools in a better place. You're more self-aware. So it's just like a lot of the stuff that we talk about, like all of that physiologically and psychologically will get you in a healthier place. But if you want to blame an external thing around something that you're not even 100% sure about, and then just also be very wary of the doctor, the TikTok account, who's telling you that, because we are very big components of cutting the BS, but there's just so much like shit out there. And like, if you just, the first thing I do anytime I see something like that, like I check the link in the bio, I look what they're selling, and it's like, oh, right, so you're pushing this method because you sell that method. Makes sense, and I think sometimes it is just worth doing a bit of homework, especially if you're going to let that be the reason you're not seeing the results you want. Yeah,
and the other thing to bear in mind as well is metabolism, unless you literally go through that process that Debbie did in that TV show where they use indirect hang on, I can't remember how to say it. Indirect calorimetry.
Come on, Si, right, come on, you can definitely say
this. No. Anyway, it's the process they do in the lab.
They call it something like something water, didn't he?
Yeah, so basically they can measure based on the oxygen and the carbon dioxide that your body produces. They know what's been metabolized because that's an output of when you burn food or process food. So, long-winded way of saying, unless you go into a lab and they do that to you, you will only have a best guess of what your metabolism is. And you can put it into a calculator online and get a generic answer, but that doesn't know like exactly how much lean muscle mass you've got, exactly how much activity you do, what your exact breakdown of your diet is. So it's only ever going to be a best guess, which is why we always say like monitor your inputs and outputs, because that is the only true answer.
Yeah. And even like we have a calorie calculator, and it's a good guess. It's a calculated guess of systems, but it's not perfect.
I mean, it's better than some.
It's better than some. It is. And by all means, go and take it. However, the best calculator you have is your body. Like, that's it. Like, if you are not losing weight, it's because you're not in an energy deficit or calorie deficit. And it's like, okay, that's the problem to solve. And if you feel like you're on 1,000 calories a day or 1,200 calories a day and not losing weight, then yes, I would maybe go and advise getting your blood work done and speaking to your doctor and seeing if there are certain things. But
let's just check that reporting though still first, because
of course,
something else that's really key is that women are more likely to underreport than men. Overweight women are more likely to underreport, and women with negative self-esteem and negative body image are more likely to underreport. Right,
and they're all big places to start, and it's also being able to play detective honestly enough to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's a huge part of having a coach, because at least for us, we will come with you with compassion and empathy, and we will cut the BS. We'll ask, some of those things that are, we'll tell you what you need to hear, not always what you want to hear, but we do it with that compassionate sort of voice.
But wouldn't you rather hear like, hey, you just forgot to track your coffee, than, yeah, your body's broken?
Yeah, because nobody wants to hear that, dude. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And again, it's disempowering. For us, it's very much about empowering you to understand the choices that you're making and the impact that they have. And that puts you in the driving seat with the steps that you're taking around your health and fitness, because, yeah, like most people have just not got a broken metabolism.
No, and if it's something that you can take the driving seat with, that's something where for the rest of your life, if things are coming to a standstill or whatever, you can go back to these steps. Like you said, get detective, figure out what's missing, and you've got the tools in your toolkit to like fix that plateau or like rebalance the dials to get the outcome that you want, rather than thinking, oh, I must need to go to the doctor again. Yeah, and an easy way of doing this is actually just to dial back the amount of ingredients you have. So that's basically, say I've got someone that's having like a very, loads of different foods for breakfast, lunch and dinner, loads of different foods for, snacks and everything else. It's basically like, right, how do we just dial that back to increase the accuracy? And then once we're like, oh, okay, now the needle's moving again, let's start adding in, more foods and more ingredients. So just to clarify, you don't mean like only eat the same 10 foods forever? No, I mean, you do it for literally, it could be like a week, or 10 days, and we just dial back the amount of foods that they have. It's maybe more of a prescriptive sort of meal plan that we've both agreed on in terms of, I like them foods, we can factor them. Yeah, I'll do that for a week. Okay, we do that for a week. Oh, we just dropped 2 pounds. Okay, cool. So it was something that we would previously, whatever we were having in terms of the mixture of ingredients, something was off there when it come to the tracking or the inputs. And then it's just like, okay, so we just start bringing foods back in, and then you can kind of see, and it's like, oh crap, that pasta that I thought was dry pasta was actually this pasta, and it had double the calories in. And it's like, huh. So literally that one meal had an extra 500 calories in. That was why. Yeah, and I think that's the key. It's not about what the ingredients are and that they're bad ingredients. No. It's just that when there's so many variables at play, actually simplifying that and just slowly bringing them in one at a time when you've got the headspace to check them is an easier way than trying to do everything perfectly all at once. Yeah, it's a very similar process of the FODMAP diet, which is like an elimination diet. You basically just, you can explain this probably better than me. Yeah, so it's similar in the context that you would remove anything, if you've got IBS, you would remove anything that might possibly be causing a problem, and then slowly bring back one at a time and see, does that cause a problem? Yeah. So same concept with this is like, there's so many different variables, like different brands of things, different added sugars of things, different portion sizes. Just strip it right back to something really simple, like, you always have 2 eggs and 1 slice of toast for breakfast. You always have a portion of chicken and some vegetables and some new potatoes for lunch, whatever. But those are very manageable to keep static. Mm. When you start throwing in the mix like a homemade curry that you just kind of chuck in ingredients as it tastes good, yes, we would love to eat that. All of us would love to eat that, and that's the long-term game. But trying to keep track on how much of which ingredient went in, how much of that big whole bowl of curry did you eat compared to your partner? It's all a bit difficult to gauge. So if you do one thing at a time, one meal at a time, you can start to up your skill level, and you can definitely get to that point where you can accurately know what's in your curry, but you need to do that with time sometimes. Yeah. So again, it's just a process, and often a very short-term process, just to keep that motivation high, keep you seeing success, get you out of this plateau, make you realize your metabolism is unbroken. How good would that feel? Like 2 weeks in, just be like, oh shit, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, exactly. And I've lost 2 pounds. Yeah, and it's like, okay, I've just had to eat a few less things that I normally would, but like it's a very short-term approach. That's never our game, long game with our clients.
It's just to keep the wheels in motion till we complete this season of weight loss, and then really learn how to eat more, eat intuitively, and enjoy food in life.
And obviously we've talked a lot about food, but that is only one element of metabolism.
Yes.
And there's a lot that we work on with clients to make sure that they have got that counterbalance for when their body weight comes down and their BMR goes down expectedly alongside. We've built up these other habits. So it is knowing what's in your food, eating a high thermic effects of food diet. So that's things like lots of protein. Do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, so just different macronutrients have different thermic values. So you might hear some people talk about macros sometimes. Macros are short for macronutrients, and they're just basically what make up calories. So if you're counting your macros, it's just a more in-depth way of counting your calories.
So that's going to be your fats, your carbs, and your proteins.
Yeah, 1 gram of carbs and 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. Now, each one of those macronutrients, your protein, carbs, and fat, have different thermic values. And Si can get me the exact ones on carbs and fat. Protein is 20 to 30%.
So what does that mean, thermic
So
value?
it means...
Jaymie's got a science hat on today. I feel like you need to get a white coat on.
So if you had 100 calories of protein, depending on what food source it's from, 20 to 30 calories of that would be spent on the digestive process, versus I think carbs is like 8 to 10% and fats 2 to 3.
5 to 10 carbs, 0 to 3.
5 to 10% on carbs and 2 to 3. 2 to 3 on fat. So if you had
teeny tiny on fat.
So if you had 100 calories of fat, 2 to 3 are spent on the thermic effect of food. You have 100 calories from carbs, 5 to 10. Now, you definitely need fat in your diet, so don't see that as a reason not to eat fat. But getting more protein in your diet is just an easy way to speed up your metabolism, and it's also really satiating. And it's great if you're doing resistance training in terms of building muscle and keeping onto that lean tissue.
Which is another way to boost your metabolism.
Which is another way to boost your metabolism. Yeah.
Nicely done.
Yes. So fat typically burns around 2 to 3 calories per pound.
When we're talking body fat now, not
body
food fat.
Yes. And muscle burns around 5 to 7 calories per pound. So if
per hour?
Per day.
Oh, so it's not huge.
It's not huge. No, but also muscle requires more energy to be moved and used. So that's why you'll see somebody who's very muscular will burn more calories off walking. Like if you have two people who are 200 pounds and one person is 200 pounds, but of, let's say they're the same height, one's 40% body fat and one's 10% body fat, the more muscular person off doing 10,000 steps will burn more calories. Mm-hmm. The more muscular person off doing the same workout will burn more calories. So even though they're both the same weight, they will burn more calories because they're more muscular and have a lower body fat percentage. So that's just another benefit of having more muscle on your body. And another big reason to be doing, full body resistance training.
Yeah, and that's something that if you do this alongside losing body fat as well, you're going to change the shape of your body, even if you feel like your weight doesn't change as much as you think. We're not going to go down the route of am I gaining weight and gaining muscle, and that's why my weight isn't going down. But you are going to see that at the same time. It's not like you have to go into a fat loss phase and then go into a muscle building phase. So I think that's another misconception.
Yeah, you really want to do resistance training while you're losing weight. That's you want to maximize the amount of muscle that you hold on to while you lose weight. And some of the best ways of doing that is to do full body resistance training, eat enough protein, and get enough sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, not eating enough protein, and not doing resistance training, and you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose a lot of muscle as you lose weight, which is not what you would not advise. It's not advantageous in any sense.
And if you wanted to get started on this and you're like, yeah, but I've never even been to a gym before, this great in theory, but I don't want to build muscle and I don't know how to build muscle. Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone?
I mean, we're going to make a course about this, aren't we, in the very near future?
Yeah, we are. 2024.
It is coming because it's something that we talk about all the time, and I just want to simplify this and have it very easy. But it's the big 6. So you can do basically 6 movements, 6 exercises, and train your whole body. And you can do it in a very short space of time. And it basically, in short, is a vertical press, which is a press above your head, a horizontal press, which is a press in front of your chest, a horizontal pull down, which is pulling something down from above your head, a vertical pull, which is pulling something down from above your head, a horizontal pull, which is something pulling something towards your chest, which is like a rowing movement, a leg press, that could be a squat, a lunge, a leg press machine, and then a hip hinge, which is like a deadlift or a Romanian deadlift, which you can do all of this at body weight, and you can do all of this with dumbbells, and you can do it all at home, and you can do it in 6 exercises. And if you do those 6 movements with progression, you can train your whole body in 30 minutes. So it's very advantageous to do this while you're losing weight, but it's actually probably some of the best things that you can do for your overall health and longevity for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Because I think it's important to note that if you don't resistance train, then we do all start to lose muscle mass from the age of 30 at about 3% a year. So that is also why people say, oh, I'm just getting older, my metabolism's slowing down. They're not actually wrong in a lot of ways. And it's one of the things that gets said a lot around, menopause, or as women get older, well, I'm fighting the losing battle because my metabolism's slowing down. This is one of the tools to stop that happening.
It is. And we've said it before, the earlier that you can build this muscle and learn these skills around these exercises, the better. Equally still, Train with Joan started like 70 something. So I think she's 80 now, 76 she started it, and she's got some crazy muscle on her body, which is amazing. So, she started mid-70s, but as with all things, the earlier you start, the easier it typically is. But yeah, your metabolism will slow down if you choose to do nothing. But there's many studies that actually show, and people don't like to hear this because it kind of rubs people up the wrong way of like, oh, I haven't taken that action and I need, again, that excuse. But your metabolism doesn't really slow down as you get older. As what typically tends to happen as you get older is people lose muscle, which is a decrease in hormones. So that slows down your metabolism and people become less active. But if you actually keep your muscle and stay active, your metabolism hardly slows down, next to nothing. So that, again, puts you back in the driving seat. Oh, wait, my metabolism doesn't have to slow down. Fantastic. What have I got to do to do that? 2 full body resistance sessions. Get your steps in, stay active.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's all in your control, pretty much. And even if, like you've mentioned, there are some medical reasons why your metabolism might be slightly different to the next person, if you're willing to take medication, a lot of the time that is going to be hardly any difference by the time you've got the dose correct.
Especially when it comes to your thyroid. I don't know whether we say lucky or not, but yes, we have the NHS here, and that is very fortunate for a lot of people. I know that isn't the case, and it's not as easy to get medication in some parts of the US. But yes, if medicated correctly, your thyroid can have very little impact in terms of losing weight.
So overall, your metabolism is a legit thing. It does play a big part in how you can manage your weight, but you are in way more control than you think.
Way more control than you think. It's not a car engine that just breaks. It's something that's consistently working and moving and adapting in alignment with basically how you're treating your body and what you're getting up to.
Thanks for listening to the Body Smart podcast. We hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you did, then make sure you subscribe or follow to make sure you don't miss out on any episodes. They drop every Thursday.